What are we doing here today? Well, I hope that we're raising awareness about the need for some action on climate change. I can't think of anything that is a more pressing concern, so hopefully we'll have some effect.
We're tired of waiting for politicians to do what they need to do, for recognizing the urgency of the climate crisis and still sitting on it. We do not have remotely enough action to protect my son's future, to protect anybody else's future.
I think things like this are just the seeds that kind of percolate and hopefully get the message more widely spread and getting more people involved so we can kind of, shift our culture in these ways.
This event is happening in solidarity with over 900 others around the world in 95 countries. That's absolutely incredible.
As BC is burning and Ontario is flooding and Quebec is baking in heat waves, it's impossible to deny that we are in the midst of massive climate change. Our climate policies in this country very often are written literally in the boardrooms of oil and gas companies. It's almost beyond comprehension.
We need to be clear-eyed about the future and what we need to do in order to have a better future. We are at an inflection point in human history. This is our moment to act on climate, and it's terrifying. As a parent, as a millennial, don't say millennials don't care, because we do. It's terrifying, but also hopeful, because we have so many big decisions ahead of us right now, and it makes my heart happy to see you all here, because we have to make those decisions together.
In the context of today's rally, we also recognize that at the front of the battle to protect our lands and waters are Indigenous communities.
We have to make sure that this is a unified approach all across Canada. This is too devastating for us to do, and we need to look at alternatives and build a contingency of love around the world like our seven grandfathers talk about. Being respectful with each other, being brave, and speaking truth.
Someone else, please. We're doing this for the victims of Hurricane Maria, the very forgotten by their own government. Climate is going to continue changing, probably in most of our lifetimes, but we can make infrastructure and social programs and supports that make sure climate victims don't have to suffer. It's our duty and our obligation to remember the people that we've lost.
How can we lead differently? There's a different type of leadership that would help us to address the issues of climate change if we would just take a minute to stop trying to justify and find rationales for dragging us backwards as opposed to thinking of the future. If there's one thing that I can ask, just one little solid, it's to keep the pressure up.
All of us have an important role to ensure that issues around climate change and sustainability stay at the forefront.
We need to have these tough conversations. And I can tell you that my door is open, Rod Saney's door is open, Brian Main, Cambridge, as well as Marwan Tabera and Kitchener South Hespeler. We want to hear from you.
Some of the earlier comments that have been mentioned, the traffic driving by, the fact that we are just so embedded in fossil fuel infrastructure every day. And I'd like to kind of take a moment to address that. There's a dissonance that's happening, some kind of mental block, when you can have billions of people burning a resource that took millions of years to create, and yet think that this is not going to have enormous consequences, right? And now we're facing up to those. So that's where I really want to focus on system change. I get tired of hearing our politicians tell us, you have to just make different individual choices. I would make a different individual choice if those options were available to me, right? If we spent $4.5 billion on clean energy investment, high-speed rail, you know, I would make a different choice.
You just look at the 401 every day. Everybody driving up and down that thing, those are workers going to their jobs. And I can't believe for a second anybody stuck on that thing is thinking, boy, I love this, sitting in traffic for 3 hours each day on my way to and from work. Nobody wants the burden of the carbon-based economy we've got. People want to change, they're just scared. And I think there's a real role to play for government there in a just transition.
It's really easy to be downcast about all of this, but this is actually a moment of great hope because dramatic change is underway. We finally have an international climate change agreement with hard to reach targets. In response to citizen and international pressure, countries are foregoing oil extraction and getting out of the oil extraction altogether. Just in the last year, there have been bans on exploration and production in France, Ireland, Norway, New Zealand, and a surge in bans just in 2017 on gas-powered vehicles coming from the UK, China, France, Germany, India, Ireland.
Why aren't we seeing this happening in the provincial legislature and in the House of Commons, in the federal House of Parliament?
Combating methane is a much faster and more efficient way to turn things around. And we can turn things around because most methane is produced by animal agriculture. We can combat it through a choice that many of us are able to make 3 meals a day. Currently, there are 60 billion farmed animals on Earth. 60 billion. To grow the food that we feed animals, it's incredibly draining on the Earth's resources. It's estimated that animal agriculture uses about 1/3 of Earth's fresh water and 1/3 of Earth's arable land. I'm really urging you all, and I'm sure many of you are already doing so, to eat in accordance to the future that you want to see.
2016 marked a major turning point. That was the point in time when more people were employed in the renewable energy sector than in the fossil fuel sector. What's the signal in all the noise? Something has shifted. Yes, we are in the midst of crisis, but something has shifted. We may be on the cusp, a tipping point toward a deeply decarbonized world.
It's so important, as some of the earlier speakers have said, that we keep up the pressure, that we continue to organize.
And what we need is to embrace radical change for the better and tell our leaders that what we need, what we love, and what we're willing to fight for is each other.
Woo! Thank you.